Well, hello and welcome to PM Express. And the big issue on the table today is the energy ministry standoff with TOR, turning TOR into a tank farm. Well, it so happens that somewhere in the western region, a bigger capacity refinery is being built that would refine 150,000 barrels a day. And after they've refined all this crude, they will need somewhere to store it. And so they look to their left and look to their right, and lo and behold, there is TOR with 50 tanks all there and ready for the storage of these tanks, which means that then TOR has to close down. And now the minister made a couple of statements publicly that, well, they're looking at collapsing TOR so that TOR can be used as a tank farm, because they already have about 50 storage tanks, huge ones, that can store all these ones. But then the CEO of TOR comes out and says, nope, not under my watch. I haven't been brought here to collapse this industry. We need to keep this industry alive, and indeed, if you are building your own refinery, then you might as well find your own storage capacity. Could they maybe share? If you have 50 tanks and you're already producing 45,000, pushing up to 60,000, could we share? Where I can bring my 150,000 into the other tanks that you're not using. I don't know what the technicalities here. Personally, maybe I shouldn't add my opinion to this, but I like the public banter. I've grown to dislike this robotic idea that because we are all this party, whatever happens, whether you agree or not, you have to toe the line. I believe we've got into the stage where representatives, one way or the other, should be able to come out against their own party and said, I think for the interest of my people, I can't go with you. So I side with that. I don't believe in this backroom talk. Sometimes we have to talk in front. Again, when they talk about legacy infrastructure, I'm a bit sentimental. So I might not make too much sense in the issue about TOR. So we want to look at what the real issue is. Over the years, we've heard that TOR is overstaffed. We've heard that they are underproducing in terms of capacity. They don't meet up to scratch. We've heard that there's too much losses in terms of TOR production. As compared to other countries, we are losing too much. Even at full capacity, they can't meet the nation's demand. And then there's the everlasting TOR debt, which has become like a tithe for all of us. Whether you like it or not, we have to tithe this levy. So all these tithing and all these levying, it's still not reflecting in TOR. And they're always saying the problem with TOR is that we need money. The problem with TOR is that we need money. We are also saying our problem is that we are paying too much to TOR. So somewhere in between us being levied and TOR receiving the money, there's big question marks to ask. But what are the technical problems with this? Should TOR be closed down and just be used as a tank so that we are saved up of all these levies? Or should TOR run and this new refinery find a way of also storing its tank? That's the issue on the table today. My name is Nana Asakwa, the fourth Chief of the Little Republic of Akwemodumasa. When I come back, I have two people in studio, one on the phone, who know one or two things about fuel and all these technicalities, and they will educate us. Don't go. Well, thank you very much for staying with me. In the studio is John Elton Botre, who's the chairman of the General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, TOR. John, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good. And then I have my senior brother, Kwame Jantua, who's a lawyer, he's an energy expert, he's a patriot, and a very passionate Ghanaian. He's also here. He knows a thing or two about TOR and everything. But I'll start with Elton. Elton, would it not make business sense if all these monies that we're pumping into TOR, and every year in, year out, there's some story coming out of TOR? Shut it down. You have 50 tanks, build a 150,000 capacity refinery, and then use it as storage. It saves you money. It saves me money. Hooray, maybe we can even export a lot of fuel since we are doing 150,000 barrels a day.
Thank you very much. I think it all boils down to feasibility. How well you have done your feasibility and what figures you are bringing out to support the idea of closing one efficient refinery to a tank farm. When we talk of tank farm, you are talking of place that you consider putting in your finished product or otherwise crude for production. But it's a case whereby TOR, as it stands now, it's not that it's not a dead plant that you would want to scrap just out of nowhere. We talk of pumping monies, but let's ask ourselves, where is that pumping money? Because TOR has been crying for money to build its capacity.
But we are paying levies. We pay you levies.
That is what we hear. I work with TOR, but I hear we are paying levies. I also pay taxes, so I pay levies. But as to whether it gets to TOR, that's another problem. Because we have been crying for trying to expand, we've been crying for maintenance, and always when it comes to government coming to our help, our aid, it becomes a different ballgame. So whether the monies are coming to TOR, fine, because I read somewhere that somebody was doing an extrapolation that if from when we started paying TOR levy, if we had continuously been paying it to TOR, by now TOR should have finished, its balance sheet should have been cleared to the extent that we should have been able to even expand capacity. But there's a case whereby TOR still is fighting its balance sheet thanks to this Osler fund that is trying to clear off all these energy debts. So you have to ask questions to the politicians. Where are these levies going? What has happened to it? Have you really used it to its full benefit? Because if you have used it, then we want to see what has TOR used that money for. But over the years, that help has not been coming. So TOR has been, trying itself.
So the money is not coming.
Definitely.
Okay, but we met with the CEO today.
Yeah.
What was his message to the?
Yeah, he really assured us that from his side it wasn't a government policy, and he was not going to superintend over a dead plant. So he was there for serious business, which we all attest to, because he's ever since he resumed office, he's done everything possible best for us to do our turnaround maintenance, which we have completed and the plants are running.
It looks like the union gets along with him.
Very well. The unions in TOR over the years have always, tried to be on that side so that at least when you are going wrong, you face the red band. But when you are going right, we try to engage. There's what we call social dialogue. So we always try to get along with whoever comes in so that we push the company forward. So when the company fails, we know that it has failed with both the union and management. So we are always on them. So with the managing director, from the day he stepped foot there, we've been with him, through the processes. When he's getting investors, when he's signing contracts for tolling, he's telling us that, he's gotten some people on board, and I think we know what he's doing to get TOR running. So when the minister comes out to make statements like this, first it demoralizes workers. And you see that people are now finding security elsewhere because they feel that now TOR is not secure to work. And these Abu Dhabi and other places, when the Koreans go there to build their refineries, what they tell them is that if you want people to run your plant, go to Ghana. Because when they came to build the refinery here, there were conditions that were not suitable for their running, but they saw the Ghanaians working. An example is like when we say total utility failure. That is whereby you are running the plant and you lose steam, you lose power, and everything goes off. When they go off like this, for the person who built the plants, he says there can't be a total utility failure. And you ask him that when there's a total, what do you do? He says, no, it can't be it. But if it happens, they run away. For the man who is building the plant, that is what he says. But when it happened in TOR, when the Koreans were there, they took to their heels to run. But the TOR personnel moved into the plant and secured the plant. But what happens is that when these things fail, when air goes into the hydrocarbon state, it will blow up. So you have to secure the plant. And the Ghanaians went in there, they made sure everything was closed manually and the plant was secure. So when they go around building these RFCC units, they tell them to go to Ghana for engineers. So when minister comes out with such statements, what you tell them people to do is to take up their visas and move, because every day, day in and day out, to get people called. Just recently, there was such type of soup, and the MD had to call workers to even tell them how he was planning to make the place, very potent, so they should stay. So it's very disheartening when you have a minister who doesn't know the golden opportunity he sits on and tries to make those statements.
Kwame, I mean, if I were on your side, probably I won't make too much, because I just get overly sentimental. This is a legacy infrastructure, so let's keep it. But maybe that's not why it has to be keep it. The numbers, the books. I mean, until recently, I was told that you couldn't even refine sweet crude at all. I think you corrected that impression. Kwame told me that. But for a long time, I was told that TOR was not equipped enough to refine crude from Jubilee. So I mean, it's like nothing but doomed news, one after the other: leakage, fire, pilfering, overstaffing, underfunding. Why shouldn't we just tankerize it, if there's a word like that, and then we're all free?
Good evening to our viewers. Good evening to you and my fellow brother here. If you have children, let's say you have 4 children, the first one does well in school, the second one does well in school, the third one is average, but the last one is not that good. What do? Do you kick the child out of school? Do you say you're wasting money on the child, so that child, you can't afford to keep that child? You try your possible best to make sure that you can help the child also achieve. We do not have any refinery apart from TOR. Now, the question is it that TOR is operationally bankrupt in terms of they don't have the right people to handle TOR? Or is it that TOR hasn't had the requisite quantum of finance to get the plant working efficiently? You see, over the years, unfortunately, my people, and when I say my people, politicians, have used TOR as a political football and haven't really invested in TOR. Most of the people they've put there have no technical idea of how such a facility runs. Yes, you would say that you can put anybody there so far as he's got good management. But you know how Ghana works. You know how Ghana works with bosses. They don't know, but they want to prove that they have the ability to do it. And over the years, it's gone on and on and on and on. Even the CPP government that built TOR, they knew that TOR would not take us to 2018. They knew it.
Back then when it was built?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the projects that Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah made, he knew that it would not take us more than 10 years. We would have to add on. So the previous governments after Nkrumah, what did they do? Did they add on? Did they look at the infrastructure and look into the future? Because what was the reason why Nkrumah built it? Nkrumah built it because he said, one day we will find oil in this country. He had already brought the Russians in to check to see whether we have oil. They realized we have oil onshore. And Nkrumah felt, yeah, if we have oil onshore, then one day we'll find oil and there'll be a refinery to refine our oil. So he had it in mind that Ghana needs to be self-sufficient in our oil production. So, come today, really, what should we use TOR for? What should we use TOR for? Yes, we need expansion. It doesn't mean we should cannibalize it and put it aside, but we should do it in such a way that is very effective. My idea, and probably my brother might not accept, or others might not accept, is right now to use TOR as a tolling facility, whereby they can refine oil from any country and earn money. And that money should be reinvested into TOR. They shouldn't be the ones to refine the oil and sell the oil. So BDCs can come in, get their crude oil from anywhere, and TOR will finance it and they will pay for it. There you'll be building the capital for TOR so that TOR can have enough capital to run. We haven't been able to do that. And I ask myself...
So run as a business rather than all this government intervention?
Exactly. Run as a business. And it should be technical people. It should be technical people. I said on another radio station today that in Brazil, if you haven't worked in the industry, you cannot be a petroleum or finance minister, energy minister. You cannot. I'm not saying our energy minister doesn't have expertise in it. But down the value chain, everybody should understand. And in understanding it, it is your duty to make sure that the president also understands what it takes for some of these things to happen. And the president himself should research to make sure that what his minister is telling him is right. And you see, with installations like TOR, it's countrywide, it's for the country, it's not for a political party. And that is the mistake we make in Africa.
Would you say a head of TOR would not be politicalized? Would you say something like that?
I don't agree where political appointees coming from political parties have been put in parastatals. I don't agree to it.
Is it not a sensitive area where you want to have some control over it?
What kind of control? Are you saying that the people, they don't trust them? Is what you're saying? Or is it because in everything we do in Ghana, we have made it partisan? Why should they create artificial shortage? Tell me why. And see, this is where the challenge is. Because we are not patriotic enough. Any little thing we want to do to make the government look bad, it's wrong. Go to Malaysia to look at what has happened in Malaysia. Look at what has happened in Malaysia. Can that happen in Ghana? Where a prime minister who is no more a prime minister, he's gone on pension, and realizes that his own party that took over from him, the person who took over from him was corrupt. Hasn't he come out? Didn't the people vote for him? Why? Because the people realized that when he was in power, he brought the country first. And we've got to a time in Ghana where that should happen. And you said it. You said it in your intro. That we've got to a place where even if you're in your political party and your party is not doing something right, say it for the betterment of Ghana. Ghana comes first before any political party. And so if it is wrong, I expect others within the MPP government to say that, no, we cannot do this. Yes, what did your MD call it? It's what do you call it?
Legacy asset?
It's a legacy asset. It's one of Ghana's assets. Not until we have built a new refinery, that is all we have. And we should make sure that we invest in it and we protect it. So, the MD is telling us that after all the money we spent to get TOR to where it is today, we want to cannibalize it? I have even been thinking further afield. And I beg to think that it will not happen. But if it happens, it will help. We have nearly 400 million people within the ECOWAS sub-region. And I would have thought that the heads of states of ECOWAS will sit and see in each country what are their strengths. So if Ghana has the strength of producing gold, the gold refinery for West Africa should be in Ghana. If Nigeria has the strength for producing oil, the refinery for ECOWAS should be in Nigeria. The key thing there is railway, whereby we build a railway network through all West Africa so that you can move goods and services in and out. And you have good passenger traffic so that Ghana doesn't have to go and look for excess money to build a refinery. Liberia shouldn't do the same thing. Equatorial Guinea shouldn't do the same thing. Nigeria shouldn't say, oil in the same. How much oil is Ghana producing? 120,000 barrels max today. Max today. If we take all the oil fields we have, we can say 230,000 barrels today. What kind of refinery do we require? So we are looking in the future. And I will tell you that the next oil blocks that are going to come up, exploration to production is not going to take 3 years like Jubilee happened. It will take longer, 6 to 10 years. So you build 150,000 barrel refinery. You're looking at exploration to production period, 6 to 8 years. What happens? How do you feed it? You now have to find money to import oil to feed that refinery. Apart from that, to manpower a 150,000 barrel refinery, you need the people. Do we have it? Have we trained them? Are they there? Are they there to be able to handle it?
Well, if they are going to cannibalize TOR, I'm sure Elting and his union will be moving.
So you ask the question, what is the workforce in TOR today? What's the workforce? And then you juxtapose it against 150,000 barrel refinery. Do we have enough workforce to do it? And let's face it, if government is saying private sector, in Ghana, can the private sector do it? Would it not be these same old Obroni who would come and do it? And when they do come and do it, would they not take the money out? Because remember, the profit margin on a refinery is very, very slim. It depends on the kind of feedstock you have. If you have ample feedstock to feed it, then you can turn the thing around. Some of us are saying that if we are planning to build a new refinery, and we are also planning to get the Voltaire Basin working, every drop of oil and gas that we drill from the Voltaire Basin should go to the refinery. The gas should go to a Tuabo. Then we know, if we know that, because studies are showing, the seismic that GMPC are doing, they are showing that there are some good areas within the Kintampo area where there's oil. All that should go to the refinery. Because when that happens, and the volatility of the oil price, when that happens, you do not experience that volatility too much. And you open yourself in terms of markets to the landlocked countries. So it's a plus, 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 plus.
Let me bring Elton in here, John. Now, once upon a time, I'm told that the refinery can only refine a certain type of crude at a time. I mean, I don't know. Is the refinery like multi-taxed, where if I bring light crude, somebody brings heavy crude, somebody brings dirty crude, I mean, whatever the crudes are you able to set the machine to refine everybody's crude? Or if you open up for towing, it's just, look, just bring me light crude because I can't do a crude. How does it work?
Yeah, you see, the refinery is designed in a way that our refinery here was designed to process sweet crude, and that is the best type of crude. And if you have a refinery that is designed for a sweet crude, then it means it can do any other crude, because with the light crude and whatever, the sweet crude is the best type of crude you can get. And that is what is in the Jubilee field. The Jubilee field gets sweet crude.
And TOR can refine that?
It's simple. The last,
I mean, I
last
don't
years
want to admit on air, but if I told you who said on Joy FM that TOR cannot refine that, you'd be amazed.
Yeah, yeah. That time, I remember some time ago,
high personality.
This thing on it. And last 2 years, we had, crude from tin fields, that's the Trinidad-Kodia fields. And we simulated it, and even the yields that were coming out were not that, good for markets. Because, when you do the simulations and you get good yields of gasoline, that's the petrol, the LPG, that is good for our market, diesel. But when you get more of Kero, the Kero doesn't, now it's not too much in our market, so it doesn't. But when we get sweet crude, when we get Bonilite and other crudes from Nigeria, the Congo and other things, when it comes, the plants, you don't suffer when you are refining. You just process it and you get the yields just coming. It's with these rough crudes that you get at times you have to blend, and at times you get problems with the the temperature profiling and other things. But when you get the sweet crude, that is how the refinery is designed to run. You see,
from time immemorial or just recently?
From time immemorial, the old plant, that the CDU plant, that it was designed in a way that it has that ability to refine every type of crude, because it was built by the Italians way back then, and as of now, it's very strong. It needs some touch up with some other facilities added to make it one of the best. With the RFCC, it's a new technology, so that one you can't even talk about, because it's designed that after the process has gone through the CDU to get the residue that comes out, the RFCC picks it and it uses the catalyst to refine it, extra refine it, and you get more hitherto this AR.
So have your losses reduced? Because one of the issues was that there were too much losses. They were not meeting national average or world average in terms of losses. I.e., let's say if you put in 10 barrels, you should lose 1, but then TOR was losing like 3. Have you lost?
Let me give you a scenario that happened. Back then, in some years past, EcoBank partnered with TOR, and they brought in crude to refine and see how they could make and they made 100% profit with no losses.
Wow.
So it has been proven that these losses, quite, we know where to get them cut off. We did our turnaround maintenance, and now at least the losses have come down operationally from about 7% to about 2% thereabouts. So we believe that now moving forward...
Is 2% high?
It's not that high.
It's not
2%
high.
is very relative, very small. But you see, there are some... The plant is designed in a way, it's like your car. When you use the car over a time, you have to break down, go into maintenance for it to run better. But if you continue moving it, it begins not to give you the right capacity that you want. And that is what happens. This tolling that my elder brother talked about, that is the facility that now TOR has jumped into. Now we are doing tolling. Hitherto we did it with BOST. That was about last 2 years, and it was a good synergy, because TOR doesn't have the money now to procure its crude. So BOST was buying crude, TOR was refining. And everything BOST reserve that year, BOST made profits, because it was just the flow was just perfect. The synergy was right, because when the crude comes to Tema, getting it to our tanks, we have a direct access there. It comes straight into our tanks. Now even we operate the mooring, that's the CBM SPM facility. So the ship can decide not to berth at the port. It will be on high seas. And we just tap, and it gets straight into...
Yeah, so the pipe that will go there?
Yeah. We have a facility there, and it goes...
Just like like the jets fuel in the air. Just like that.
So you get it there, and straight it gets into the tanks. So it was just perfect. The synergy was just perfect, and you get it. We refine over some days. It was less than, and we did about 7 million barrels within that year. And it flooded the tanks of BOST, because they could fill up to their Bupe storage site, and they were even exporting to Burkina Faso and other things. And I think it was perfect. But now that synergy is not there. But still, the recent one that we are refining is a tolling that the management had with another company, and now we are doing the refining. Now they've signed to other ones that we know is coming on soon. So I think the tolling, as my brother said, is one of the perfect means now to sustain a refinery like TOR. So if even the BDCs were going to partner TOR, it will be quite easier, because buying crude is cheaper than buying the finished product. Yes. So when we know that TOR is good running, you just buy the crude, you refine for you, go.
If you buy and you refine, both costs will work out cheaper than you going to buy the finished product.
Far. Because now when you finish,
their what do you call it on their markup on it.
When you finish refining, when we do the tolling for you and we finish refining, one, you don't have tanks. So we store it in our tanks. We have a gantry that serves. So all you do is that we pack them there for you. Now your trucks come, they load it. We charge you for tankage. We charge you for the tolling. So you don't need transportation of your products. Also, your cost reduces, and you make profits. And when Boss was doing it, Boss was gaining, because when they finished, we had pipelines that we could easily, transfer to them. So they didn't have issue with getting the tanks to fill and take them elsewhere. So when these things come on board, connecting lines from TOR to another BCDC site or something, it's not a problem.
You see, Nana, this is where I feel we should be looking at, especially with BDCs. Well, see, because the BDCs, they hire a lot of people. And if you give them the chance to bring in the crude for TOR to finance, they can go to other parts of the landlocked countries and sell the refined petroleum product.
Let me take a quick break and come back and find out if all these things are there. Why would the minister think about scrapping it? Is it one of those things that work on paper, but in actual fact doesn't happen? I'm coming straight back. Well, in all this, the ministry has asked that the workers of TOR cease fire. Some of these things have been discussed backdoor, and they're still propagating that, look, there's 150,000 barrel units coming up, and so why don't we put our energies in that rather than focus of ailing TOR. But here we are with this elaborate modern facility of TOR. I mean, Kwame, you probably are in the corridors of power.
Really? I wish.
Well, you know what happens in the corridors. Let me rephrase. You know what happens in the corridors of power. Do you think
I've been in power for 30 years.
Look at that. Do you think they are aware of all these facilities? That, TOR can be literally refining for people and making their own money and probably, not depend on government so much. Are they aware?
You see, the challenge is party manifestos.
Is the union not making it sound too sweet because they want to keep it for their job?
Well, they work there and they know what they're talking about.
So maybe they have their sugar coating.
I would rather all these years it was TOR who would tell us the state of TOR and not ministers and not political party representatives. You see, where you have a situation where the political party has to make sure that it sticks to its manifesto, you get these challenges. Because as far as they're concerned, we have promised the people it needs to be done. However, if we have a long-term national development plan, where every political party comes in and they tune into that long-term development plan, there's a continuum if the party changes. And it's not based on a party manifesto. And there's continuity in all that you do. So I've been asking the question, what is happening to the long-term development plan that was drafted recently? Because in that plan, which I was part of, and I was part of the energy sector, all these things were outlined in there, succinctly.
There's a new 7-year one, isn't it?
It's a 40-year plan.
No, that was it. But now there's a 7-year plan that's been initiated.
By who?
By this government.
Yes, that is why I asked the question. That is why I asked the question. What is happening? Because the Constitution, which is the Bible of our country in terms of governance, talks about the long-term development plan. Why are we not doing it? Because if that long-term development plan, the entire population of Ghana is tuned into it, they can monitor properly how these projects are being done. They can know, they have the knowledge. Today, if you ask a Ghanaian about TOR, would they be able to tell you? But they should be able to tell you, because the information coming out of TOR should come from TOR itself. If it so happened that the chief executive of TOR did not come in to say what he said, how many Ghanaians will know what was going on? How many? And we've got to a stage in this country where the leaders we put in place should be able to make sure they talk for the people to hear and not just party affiliation. Because the president has put you in place and things are going wrong, you keep quiet. Say it so that we can talk about it and make sure that we treat it. We've gotten to a stage where we cannot just allow things to waste anymore. Too much money has gone to waste. We have to stop it. We have to.
I mean, one of the issues, Hunter says that, look, there are so many communication channels for the CEO. So the CEO has access to the minister. He can submit a counter proposal to this. This is how serious business should be conducted. We need to dialogue on issues like this, taking into consideration the economics of refinery, the efficiency of the current refinery, the need to expansion of TOR's operation to meet our domestic demand, the need to add value to Ghana's crude oil, and the potential for creating more jobs. We are open to counter proposals if they are convincing. We will consider them. The protest will not solve our problem, so we appeal to the workers to cease fire and encourage its management to engage the ministry on this.
Who put the government in place? Who put the government in place? The people of Ghana put the government in place. So I would like to believe that the CEO felt his main responsibility was the people of Ghana. That was his number one responsibility. And he's made the people of Ghana aware what is going on. Hence, we are sitting here talking about it. And I hope the ministry, my own friend, the Minister of Energy, would sit and listen. Would sit and listen. And I hope that with most of these strategic things we do, Ghanaians are brought along. So I'll give you a typical example of our bauxite. Just yesterday or day before yesterday, the president was in London. What did he say? We're going to use the oil revenues to help build our country. Fantastic idea. Between 2010 to 2018, how much have we made? $3.87 billion. Now, the challenge here is that oil prices are volatile, very volatile. And we saw it in the past government, where it ran from $100 right down to what? $30 a barrel. So, in as much as you want to do that, I do not think that you should only predicate it on oil. Predicate it on our natural resources. If anybody, the Chinese are coming into Ghana, we want bauxite, we want manganese. Before you take our bauxite and manganese, open a refinery here. It creates jobs. It helps added value. We get more money for it. And when we do that, we can now spread it with a long-term development plan. We can now spread it into the parts of the economy that we want it to work in. You cannot use only oil. We are not in Nigeria where we are doing 200 million barrels a day. We are doing 120,000 max, 200,000. And as I said, even with this 200,000, for the other fields to come in, it takes 6 to 10 years for them to come in. Not unless we accelerate it. And accelerating it means putting more money in to make sure that you can do it quickly and start production. The ExxonMobils of this world, they have the wherewithal to do ultra deep. Ultra deep production is much more difficult than shallow to deep. Much, much more difficult. And it will take time and it takes money. So even if you are planning a huge refinery, you should make sure the feedstock is there. Now, my brother will be able to tell me more about the Sulpon field, where the oil coming from the Sulpon field was not sweet crude, but had heavy sulfur. I'm sure they had to now refine it for the, to take. So it goes to show that even in certain parts of our oil basin, offshore basin, we can get heavy crude with heavy sulfur there. You predicate everything on it, you have to spend more money to refine it. So it is very important that we do the homework on our offshore basin. We do the seismics there. We do the trials to see what kind of oil we have there before we even start looking at the refinery. We have one. Let's manage it now. But let's put the plans in place so that as we are expanding, And as our oil industry expands, the oil refinery too expands.
With sulfur, let me come to John. The new rules for sulfur compliance, are you able to meet that standard?
No, presently we can't. I think even when the minister came into power, we've sought audience with him to discuss this issue when they were dropping the specification to 50 ppm. And it was a concern to us. Later, the African Refinery Association, they gave a limited time, that's up to 2030, for us to beat it. And this is the reason why the expansion had to come in for TOR, because they needed desulfurizers, which after production, they can go through the desulfurizers to take off the sulfur to that 50 ppm. And our argument was that over the years, even the Europes and what have you that have dropped down, they took some number of years before they were able to get there. So if you have one refinery and you want to protect it, why in a haste try to say the sulfur content should go to 50? We are producing about 1,500 ppm of sulfur, and you want us to move from 1,500 to 50 in a space of about 3 months, and that was a concern. It's not possible. So we needed the desulfurizers to be built before we could gradually go down. Now, even the Europes that you are now buying this 50 ppm from them to come, they have moved to about 4. They are doing about 4 ppm. And so the 50 ppm there is like their off-spec that you have to bring down to come and use. So why don't you resource us to move down, then gradually? We met the, I think that day it was the director of the ministry, and he was of the view that the 50 ppm now is for the imports. So with the refinery here, we can continue with a 1,200, 1,000 ppm until the 2030. And we cited that and that now it's competition. When the BDCs have to bring in 50 ppm and we are producing 1,002, who is going to buy the 1,002? Because definitely he will make noise about it that his is quite better than what we are producing. So that is even hanging. That issue has not been chained out fully.
Are there countries, landlocked, who don't have any BPM regulations that we can export to?
That is what they wanted to export it to some of the countries. They were going to look for market for it outside to be exported to. But that is also at a whole. You see, the aspect of this new refinery, when my brother was speaking, when you want to build a new refinery, like I told you about the Asia, how they are building their refinery. When they build the new refineries, they even want to come to Ghana for engineers. Now, if Ghana wants to build a new refinery, now capacity to fill it. By this time, if you know that within 2-3 years you build a refinery, by this time you should have people coming into the old refinery you have to learn. Because running a refinery is not like starting a car. So you have to get people, train them over years. The people who go
You can't do it on paper?
No. When I teach you now as to how to run it, when you get there and even you hear the noise, you might be frightened to run away. There have been people who have come in to be trained, and they enter the plant once, the vibration and everything that goes on there, they have to.
I can't stand big machines.
But the other thing is thinking forward. And what do I mean by thinking forward? You see mobile phones. You see the way mobile phones exploded into our system. The same way electric cars will explode. What are we planning? How are we planning for that? For me, the gas is more important because of electricity. When electric cars flood the world, where will this crude that we're refining, where would it go to? Okay, you would get airplanes, jet fuel and things like that. You get heavy ships. But the majority of the crude the refined petroleum products we're doing now is for cars. And the moment cars change, it's going to drop the value of refined petroleum products. Are we planning for that? All that should be part and parcel of the way we are planning our oil industry. Because electricity is going to be king come the next 20 years. Renewables is going to be another bit where it's going to be king. We need to plan towards that. So we go and build a 150 barrel refinery. Come 10 years, because we don't have the market to sell the crude, what happens? And we would have invested money in there. The critical thinking and the planning is key in everything we do.
And you see, it just happened even in the Gulf regions. Recently, when the prices of crude came down, they had to lay most workers off. And people had to come down because when the price of crude is not that high, the cost of production is high, and you can't pay the workers. And most of them are expatriates. So when we are planning a new refinery, then we should know where the input or the resource to get the refinery running should also be. As I was talking about training, if training is not adequate, you need expertise from outside. I remember the last time there was an exodus in TOR when workers had to leave. The management had to bring in Koreans to come to just shut down the plant. As the plant was working, you think that shutting down something would be just turn it off and go. No, but they had to bring in Koreans from outside to come shut down the plant, which presupposes that when you have a refinery now, getting the personnel to adequately run it would also be a problem.
So once it starts, you don't shut it down?
No. It goes, when you want to shut down, it's a process, a whole process on its own. You can choose to shut down a plant within about 2-3 days, you are shutting down. And when you are starting within a week or something, you are starting. The processes, you have to build temperatures, you have to get this running before everything, then you turn the key, then it starts. So it's a whole serious business.
How much money would you need to produce 4 BPM fuel? How much the desulfurizes? You are in the industry. Is it $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion?
It doesn't take that much. With a refinery that is there, and you need the desulfurizers. I mean, the last time they cost it was around 500 million or something to get it expanded to, get the desulfurizers to reduce the sulfur content. That is not that much. So, and that day we went to the minister. We were keen to go appeal because the African Refinery Association, when they met, they threw the challenge to the governments that they should help equip their refineries to meet those standards. So we're thinking that the minister was going to go in that tangent to, see how we're going to raise funds. We're even talking of this TOR recovery debt, and this maybe the money has accrued that much so that government can push in some money. And that is why the last time there was assertion that TOR workers were against the building of a new refinery. We said no. When you are building new refineries, fine. That is government policy. We can't stop it. But we are saying that now if you want to build a new refinery, it is the old refinery that you are going to use as a map-up to build a new one. Now you are going to see that, when you have a refinery, when you do A, B, C, the failures and this, you are going to look at that one to build it. So why do you say you want to scrap it? Because you are going to, now the refinery as it stands, it's a training center on its own. Because we have people who do chemical engineering, petroleum engineering and what have you, and the only practical side they have is TOR. Presently, we are even training MODEC staff who are going to work on the new FPSO. So it's an institution on its own. Because when I was in school and learning chemical engineering, I never knew what was called an exchanger, a heat exchanger. It took me to come to TOR to see what a heat exchanger is. And the first day I saw it and I was appreciating, I was now remembering what because all along he was saying in the lecture hall, it was like some book theory. And now I saw it and I saw that even the conditions he was telling me was not practical. So you go to the field and tell you that, this is book, but on the practical sense, you have to check the material, what goes in, what comes out, and it's a whole business. So when you get to TOR, I always say that ever since I entered TOR, I had a different perception. Before you get in, you hear all those things outside. They are thieves, they do this, they have losses. But when you enter and you see the processes and whatever go there, you really appreciate the work that they are doing because it's a full engineering setup. That's the only production side in Ghana. I would say you have the complement of all the engineering stuff, from civil works to maintenance to utilities. We generate our own power. So when we are running the steam that we produce, we use it in our boilers to generate power to feed. So when we are running, we have the external and we have the internal. So the external might use to start up. But when we start and we have the steam goes into the boilers and we use it to power the plant. So it's a full setup. There's the electricity aspect, there's a powerhouse, there's a wastewater treatment, and so you have the complement of every engineering.
After the rehab, because I know you just had a what's the performance now after the rehab?
It's performing well. We started a CDU somewhere 2 months ago after the rehabilitation, the turnaround maintenance, and we've started the RFCC, and it's going well. We can see that the efficiencies are high, but it's now we've just started, so definitely after maintenance you have to be trying and other things. But we rolled it one touch, and it's working well.
You see, Nana, the media is not called the fourth realm of the state for nothing. I think we've got to a stage in this country where the media should also put their nose in it small. When you go abroad and you watch television, the media go to factories like this and show people how it works. It would be great for the media to go to TOR. Take the media through, the media will take the people through. Ghana Gas, take the media through, the people take it through, so that at least, if for nothing at all, they get to appreciate the kinds of things that happen there and the processes it takes to get a drop of fuel. Everybody will graduate. And the other thing it does is that it also triggers the interest of the young people, the children. Hey, it's very interesting. Let me see whether I can also achieve to be an engineer. And this is where the media can play a crucial role. Look, the sugarcane factory that is being built right now, once you start production, after a certain duration of time, it has to be stopped for maintenance for at least 3 to 4 weeks. It happens with a trouble, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With any kind of manufacturing unit like this, you need to stop for maintenance. And that maintenance should be a continuous maintenance. Otherwise, you don't do maintenance once, there's problems. And that was one of the challenges with TOR. There was no money to do maintenance. And they had to continue working because they had workers to pay. And it was creating problems for the machinery there. And so I think the media should take it up and try and educate Ghanaians as to some of the things that happen in these types of institutions. We are now doing 1D, 1F. The factories that are going to come up, that are going to be able to produce those types of things that we need. Media should go around. They should specialize in some of these things so that they can educate Ghanaians. So when a minister comes and he's talking about something, the Ghanaian has a knowledge of what he's talking about, and we can talk about it and make sure that where the minister is going the right way and it's not going to be detrimental to the country.
Wow, that was an education and a half, but I think the conversation has just began, so we'll see how it ends as to whether the ministry will stand their ground or will back off.
It's not a fight. It's not a fight.
It's not a fight.
Well, we'll see what the dialogue will get to.
Well, I think the people in the ministry, they are understanding people. They understand things, and definitely.
Can you share the tanks with the new? I mean, you have more than enough tanks. If they come
we have tanks, and even recently we were talking with management to see how we could even leverage some of the tanks.
So can you leverage some to this new refinery?
You see, the new refinery right now, we are a bit confused.
20 seconds.
Yes, we are a bit confused because we don't know whether the new refinery is the one we have decided to expand, or it is a new one they are going to build.
That's another
and
chapter.
Whether the scrapping of the tank farm, the what do you call it? The TOR is for crude or is for refined petroleum products. We don't know.
The number is 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. That's Tanti's Fashion, and they make my shirts for the show, so give them a call. Happy Mother's Day to Ohinire, give to Yanti. Happy Mother's Day to Nana Sada Sumbisa, Angela Lasse, and Anana Afrakoma II, Akomuhima, and all the other mothers in my life. Happy Mother's Day to you. And then thank you so much for my guest for enlightening us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nana.